The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Thomas Sanherho. Hi, Thomas.
Hi, Dom. How's it going?
Very well, thanks. And Pat Scott. Hi, Pat.
Howdy.
Folks, we have some good stories we want to talk about today, some interesting things that I thought might be some good discussion. Some meta topics, I think, today. And we also get some headlines, and I have a tale of woe to share later on, but we'll get to that in a bit. You can vicariously live through my pain, and maybe take some lessons away from what I've done that maybe save you from that in the future. But we'll get to that in a second. Our first segment, we want to talk about the topic of tech rumors. Rumors are big. Rumors are big currency now in everything. Rumors about movies, who's being cast and what's the movie going to be about, and spoilers, and rumors about politicians and celebrities and all the other stuff. I mean, I can't wait till we have like rumors about books. That's going to be fun. Actually, we do have that. Like when Harry Potter.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Out, yeah.
That's been something. Harry Potter. The rumors about the Game of Thrones books too. They've been pretty rampant. So.
That's true. And we even have rumors in the Catholic Church, about cardinals being selected and popes being elected. Rumors are everywhere. Okay, but one of the reasons we have rumors is because there's more news outlets than ever, and they're all trying to get our attention, and they're all trying to scoop each other and find out something. And it's especially bad in the technology space, where there's every tiny blog, every financial analyst, every newspaper site, everybody is trying to one up the next guy and get the exclusive. And the thing that comes to mind is, the question I want to bring up is, do tech rumors do more harm than good? And there are different people who could be harmed or have good happen to them. In this, we can get into that. So when we get rumors of changes to unreleased rumored products, or let me put it this way: rumors of rumored changes to unreleased rumored products, and then these people will then claim, "Oh, the sky is falling." Oh, this is the worst thing ever. Oh, it's going to be terrible. And I've got two examples of that I want to throw out there. They both happen to do with the iPhone 11, but this isn't an Apple thing. It happens to all the big tech companies. But so, for example, Forbes had a couple of articles earlier this year. One said, new iPhone 11 leak confirms disappointing lack of radical changes. And then later on, the very next day, by the way, Apple suddenly abandons massive iPhone upgrade. And, when you look back at these after the iPhone is out, and it's wildly popular, everybody loves it, it's the most amazing camera ever, and you say, well, who did that serve? What was good? What was the point of that? So just in general, do either of you, do you pay attention to rumors about forthcoming products, or do you have a nuanced view where you only pay attention like right before the product announcement? What is your attitude toward rumors? Thomas, we'll start with you.
I have a skeptical view. Most of the time, I think that there's the rumor mill is not just something that happens by accident. So, these things get released, they get leaked by the company, and I'm using air quotes here for the leaking of these things. And I think a lot of times when you have a situation like that where there's a very disappointing rumor and then the product comes out, it's one of those over deliver and under promise kind of things. And so they make sure that the worst possible bits of the news get out so that they can then come out with a higher tech version that seems like they really pulled it out at the last minute, So I think there's a lot of that goes on because there's a lot of playing the rumor mill too.
That's true. There are companies that will push their own rumors out through selected outlets And sometimes you kind of know who these people are. They have, there's certain people who will tend to be that they're the mouthpiece. Or they'll just preempt the rumors like Google did this year with the Pixel 4. They basically just started releasing information about this phone that they haven't even announced yet, months beforehand. So it's interesting. Yeah, the skeptical view. Pat, what about you? Do you pay attention to rumors?
I kind of hear that they're out there. I really don't go seek them out because I kind of like mystery. It's like I didn't really even want to know the gender of my child or the sex of my child before it was born. I like to hear it fresh. And so many of the times when I do get sucked into it and go read them, yeah, it's just like these people, all they're wanting is that ephemeral bounce, that ephemeral headline. And that news is really stale when the product finally hits. You realize, oh, this is terrible. It was ridiculous. So no, I kind of avoid most of it. Okay.
Yeah, if you have some fun, go back and like Google old rumors after the product is out and see how badly a lot of these rumors were.
It's interesting. I'd like to know what the effect of some of this is on the stock for these companies. I think that a lot of it is speculation in the same way that we talk about the housing market, like, oh, the housing market's going to be strong this next. Or about futures for oil, where a lot of it's just driven by this kind of sense of, oh, well, we're just going to imagine that it's going to be this way, and then suddenly the stock's going to go up and meet that imagining. So,
or I don't know, it has the opposite effect, which is what happened in 2017. Apple announced its second quarter earnings, and they were down. And they had to explain, like, no, they're down partly because there have been so many rumors about the iPhone 8 at the time that people are not buying the phones. They're holding on to what they've got, waiting for the new phone because they think that's going to be so much better than buying the iPhone 7, which was available at the time, or the 10, or that's right. This is when the iPhone 8 and 10 were both coming out, and so they, should we wait? What it was going to do, and so people ended up sitting on the phone, driving down sales, and affecting the company's bottom line. I mean, that was something that makes you wonder: was someone shorting the stock? With that, they're shorting the stock, which is intentionally driving, buying the stock on, I don't know, I don't understand how stocks work, but buying it high and selling it low and making money somehow, or whatever that is. It's something like having an option to buy it. But it makes you wonder who was it? Cui bono? Who benefits? The old Latin phrase that who's benefiting from these rumors. So that's what. So sometimes rumors, they convince people to wait to buy rather than buy what's in front of them. That's what we're just talking about. And this can be confusing for people who need a phone. What do I get? I don't know what to get. I don't want to get the wrong one. And sometimes we end up with FOMO, where we are afraid of missing out on the next best thing, when really the one right in front of you is probably pretty darn good and is going to be fine for a couple of years. Even though it's not the latest and greatest. I say this as someone who always, as the new phone comes out, goes, "Oh, I really want that." So
see, I'm coming from the Android world. It's even harder because there's not this flagship for everything, like with the Apple products. And so looking at the specs on phones that are coming out in the Android world is really tough. And for the longest time, I was convinced that I was going to get the Samsung phone because it had the best specs and it was it was the best phone out there. But they were terrible. They were really, in my opinion, they were bad phones, and they had great specs, but they didn't behave well in my hand. And so I've moved over to using Metro or Motorola phones, and my Motorola phones are fantastic, and they're in my price range, actually in my price range, rather than these other ones that I had to buy on sale or somehow get at a very cheap price. And these are good phones. They're both of the ones that I've had so far have been fantastic, lasted me all the way through the life that I needed them to.
Yeah, right. But Pat, what do you think? I mean, can the rumors ever can rumors be good for us? I mean, is it ever a useful thing? I mean, if you're a rumor that tells you, for example, if there's a rumor right now that Apple's got a new MacBook coming with a new keyboard to replace the most recent new keyboard, which breaks if you eat a donut within the same room as it or something like that. Get a crumb in there. So that might be good, actually, if for people to hear that rumor. Maybe hold off a couple weeks if you can. What do you think? Can the rumors be helpful to people?
I guess in some cases they can be. I guess I'm looking at most of the rumors that I've seen. The people either needed a phone and they went and got it, or so I guess a rumor can hype it up a little bit to say, oh, there's excitement, kind of like the trailers on a movie,
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes those rumors do hype it up a little bit and get people excited and stuff like that. But I think most of the rumors that I'm thinking of are very negative and almost seem to be bashing type of rumors, a little bit of the jealousy type problem. Here, I'm going to tear your product down because, gosh, I want to promote mine later on.
Right. Yeah, or sometimes I don't know. I don't know what Forbes has an axe to grind against Apple, but they're constantly writing articles where they're bashing Apple, and just like the two examples I just gave, and it makes you wonder.
I was just going to say, I was going to point out earlier, boy, both of these were from Forbes. Is there anybody else that's got rumors as bad?
Well, in fact, that one of the reasons I kind of thought about this topic was because as I'm looking at the headlines every week for StarQuest headlines, I'm kind of scanning, and for this show, I'm scanning the tech news a lot, and I'm constantly seeing, in the headline lists, Forbes, something nasty about Apple. Forbes, something nasty about Apple. I'm like, what is with Forbes? It doesn't like Apple for some reason. It's very strange.
They're only ones doing real reporting. That's what they're. I got somebody in the office that's feeling that way. I'm not going to fanboy about Apple.
I guess, or they know that when you bash Apple, the Apple fanboys show up to defend and get all those clicks, I guess, or something.
Maybe so.
I mean, so there's some of that. I think in some of these rumors is that they're about driving traffic to your site, through, because a rumor is just that. There's no need to really vet it. You can't source it. According to unnamed sources. I heard from a supplier. But there's no accuracy in that necessarily. You don't have to be accurate. Oh, it's just a rumor.
Right.
So there's that.
It's a little irresponsible.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too when you look at how many tech blogs and even vloggers on YouTube have arisen from doing gone from initially just reviewing products to now kind of participating in this speculation because they get invited to the big events and they so they get excited about it, hyped up about it, and get interested in what they're going to go see, and then they talk about it beforehand too. And I don't know. I mean, it's the press. It's kind of always been that sort of entertaining preview of things whenever there's something that they're predicting in the future.
Right. I remember what was it? The Red camera is this really expensive cinematic camera out there, right? It's like one of these. It's a $25,000, $50,000 professional movie camera. Okay. And I remember a while ago, a few years ago, there was rumors that they're coming out with a phone. And it would have a holographic display unlike anything you've ever seen. And MKBHD, which is probably the biggest tech vlogger, tech video channel on YouTube, where he had this, a personal interview where he got to look at and hold it and, get an unreleased view of it for a year in advance of when it's going to get released. He couldn't show it on the screen. Wasn't allowed to show it on camera, but he could. And I'm not saying that he did anything wrong. I'm not saying that he was being deceptive, but I think he got played because when the phone eventually came out, it was $2,000. The specs were pretty low, and nobody was wowed by the quote unquote holographic display. But right. It's a kind of an example of that, where a lot of these people who are not trained, I mean, the trained journalists do a bad enough job sometimes themselves, but not really journalists themselves who have these huge followings, end up amplifying this stuff. They get played by the marketers.
Well, and I think part of being a YouTuber is being loud about things, and that's it kind of goes with the course. If you can get a YouTuber and you can say, hey, we've got this product that we'd like to float you, so you can give it a try.
Yeah,
you're going to get a loud response out of it, one way or the other.
And anything for more views, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's great for the YouTuber because you get known for having access to information and being able to see things. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I like MKBHD. I think he's less of a jerk, let's just say, than a lot of these YouTube tech guys who, again, access to grind or act like idiots or whatever. I mean, I think he's a pretty straight shooter, but yeah, I mean, even then, you just have to wonder about the they're getting played and the rumor thing. So, what's the bottom line for listeners with the rumors? What should they do when they see rumors out there? Should they pay attention to them? Are there rumors that are better than other rumors? What do you think? Like I'm looking online, I see a rumor about next year's phone, the next Google phone, the next Samsung phone. What do I do with that information? What do you think?
I guess I would say something like, well, it would be interesting if this happened, but I sure wouldn't recommend that anybody count on it. And I kind of feel like rumors kind of like about gossip. It's like I don't really like passing on stuff that's not very, very meaty or very possible to be accurate. So I kind of see it more like gossip.
Yeah, I think there is some value that we as consumers could get out of it in the sense that these companies do float a lot of ideas just to see what the response is.
That's true.
So, when the idea comes out, if it's something that you really would like to see in a phone, then expanding on it and saying, I would really love to see this in a phone. I think it's great that it's being talked about. But, kind of keep it in that vein where they're talking about it. They're not it's not necessarily the final product yet, but they're trying to get kind of some research out of that same concept too.
And I think in general, when you see a rumor, think about how far out this product is supposed to be. If someone says this is what's going to be in next year's iPhone, we're talking about this at the end of October, I would not put a whole lot of stock in that rumor. But if it's the beginning of September and someone says it's someone reliable like Daring Fireball or the Loop. Or the guy over at Bloomberg who's done Apple reporting for years. If one of them says this is what you could probably expect in the next iPhone, a little birdie tells me, then you could put more stock in it. But just you got to use some discernment when you hear these rumors. I mean, frankly, I hear rumors about stuff like and I go, that's not even possible. Like with the state of technology today, like that may be 10 years down the road, but that's not something that anybody's going to have available like next week. Like the Apple glasses, for example, that we talked about.
Or the driverless cars, the self-driving cars that Uber already has on the road. Teaching tech to kids and trying to get them to understand what we're capable of. We have cars that can drive themselves technically, but they aren't self-driving cars, and trying to get them to understand the difference between those two things. Especially when the rumor mill for for these car companies that are saying we're going to beat everybody because we've got self-driving cars and we're going to put them out on the road. Yeah, that's like a good 15, 20 years at the best away. So, it's difficult, especially with kids that are learning about it, to try and teach them how to discern what is science fiction and what is science fact, especially as those two things are coming a lot closer together.
Right. Discernment is a huge factor. For everyone.
It kind of reminds me about when my kids were small and they come in talking about these contests or these products or whatever, and we'd talk and sit down and say, teach them to be a little cynical. Mm-hmm. And so basically they did serve a purpose, and it gave me a time to talk to them about such things, to say, no, that product will probably break if you buy that little toy. Or, no, you're not going to win this contest even though you got this thing in the mail saying you just did.
But Mom, we've won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. It says right here.
Right. So it becomes, you can use it as a teaching tool too.
That's right.
And not just with your children in that case.
I mean, with my clients as well. Basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's the thing is this applies for all ages. Because we all, at one point or another, we all fall for something. We're all gonna fall for the thing. So it's good to help each other. Awesome. All right, so I think that was a good discussion. So let's move on to our next topic. And this is an interesting one. I think it's a practical one, especially for anyone who's looking for a job these days. Although with the unemployment rate so low, it's maybe not as competitive as it once was, at least on the getting hired side. But there's this story from Naked Security, which is part of the blog from the Sophos, the antivirus people. They have a story that job seekers are scrubbing clean their social media accounts, and there's been some studies done. They did a survey of people and their attitudes toward their social media from the perspective of trying to get a job. And it's very interesting that they find that more and more people are going through their social media and scrubbing it, cleaning up stuff, making it presentable for hiring managers. And frankly, it's the world we live in today. I mean, this is a world where we expect that that people who want to know about us are going to go right to our social media, whether it's a hiring manager or the news media or people who don't like us, they're going to go there. And so people have gotten wise to this, and so some very interesting stuff comes out of this. They found that 84% of people looking for jobs believe that social media regularly impacts hiring decisions. So people, I think that's true. And I think what it means is people have a realistic understanding of how social media affects their ability to get a job. I wish more people acted like it on their social media. I think some people still aren't understanding, still aren't putting that into effect. And then they said that 50% of people think employers don't think employers should be allowed to look at your social media. So some interesting data. What do you think about that? Do you think employers should be able to look at people's, let's just say, public social media accounts? And we'll get into private separately. But what do you think? Should they be able to go look at your Facebook, your Twitter account, your Instagram as a way to judge who you are as a candidate for a job? Or, I mean, some people say, oh, it's completely unrelated. What do you think?
Well, if they see a lot of postings about drug and alcohol use, then I would say it probably could affect their job performance. Not necessarily, but if they're using that much on social media talking about it, then it probably is a big part of their life. And
right.
Now, whether I think that the employer should go look at it is not the issue as much as is that I think that it really would affect their job potential. I don't know how I feel about employers trying to go beyond what's on the application.
What do you think, Thomas? Do you think they should?
It's out there. I think it's something for people to keep in mind that this information is out there about you. Not too long ago, the question might have been, should they be able to Google search you? And, because things return from a Google search. Everyone should do a Google search about themselves often. Make sure that you do it through a VPN so that you get a clear view of what you look like on the web as reality, not just from your own stuff. But, you find out some interesting things, some interesting places that you've been mentioned. I don't see why they shouldn't. That's my one problem with saying that they shouldn't be allowed to, or that they shouldn't do it, is that it's kind of unrealistic to think that that's not going to happen in some way with the availability of social media.
Right, just like they're not supposed to make hiring decisions based on how old you are.
Right.
They can
look at you when you walk in the door.
Right.
Exactly. Or just me as a person with a bizarre last name, Senhiro is not a very common last name. And so when I put that on a resume, I know that there are probably some biases going on there where they look at the name and they're not really sure what my ethnicity is. And so, but I'm definitely not Caucasian, so right. That's, which is bizarre because, if I present myself, if I could throw a different last name on there and I could come off as a completely white bread guy and would not have a problem doing that. But I think that's something that is naturally occurring, and it's not a bad thing necessarily. As long as you are making sure that you are keeping track of what your online persona is presenting.
Right.
I guess my thought was when I saw this topic, oh, finally, maybe some of the people are getting a little wiser, by being
Right.
able to go back and scrub it. And of course, the fast way to do that on Facebook is just to say, make all my previous posts private.
Mhm.
Because people don't remember when they're posting something, oh, yeah, that was okay to go to the world, but now the next few posts are also public. And that's a quick way to shut it down. And the people you care about have already seen them anyway.
40% of people surveyed have made an alias account. So they have an account that's not in their name, that's not associated with their name. 43% have set privacy settings, which would prevent employers or coworkers from seeing their private social media. And again, I don't think there's anything nefarious about that. And frankly, I think there's a lot of young people who just aren't using a lot of social media because it's been drilled into them. What you do, what you put on social media stays with you forever. It will permanently color people's, even when, what you've posted is when you're 16 and you're now 35, that's still, people are still carrying that forward, and maybe their generation will learn how to overcome that. We could hope, but because people do grow up and they mature and they change, and unfortunately, social media and Google doesn't always reflect that. So it's very interesting to see these numbers, that more people are, I think, wising up about what they put out there. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it because there's still a lot of people posting a lot of bad stuff, but apparently they're starting to wise up.
Well, that's a good thing. Well, I was just going to say, this kind of makes me think of the second part is that an employer may try to coerce somebody into typing in their password to see their stuff, and that I'm totally against.
Right.
I think
100%.
Yeah, I think that should be. There are cases, in fact, where I have heard cases, and I don't have them at my fingertips, but I've seen news reports about certain companies requiring employees to give this hiring manager or somebody entry into among their friends or their private group that if they've made their accounts private. So you can make your Twitter private or you make your Instagram private. What are you hiding? Let me see it. Could be, and basically when you get to that point, you've lost the job, because if you're not willing to show it, the guy's just going to move on to the next candidate.
Well, I probably wouldn't want to work there either.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like, that is not the company that I want to be working at, because if they are that draconian about things, then they are definitely not the place that I want to be.
They're the ones that are telling you no personal photos on your desk, and you have 3 minutes to use the bathroom on your break.
Exactly.
Right. And why didn't you answer your phone at 9:15 last night? Yeah, I think that's a clear sign. That's nature's way of saying don't work here. So let's think of some of the things that people should be paying attention to, maybe wanting to clean up on their social media. So one thing that career professionals and hiring managers advise is removing evidence of unprofessional behavior from your past. And that's sort of a open-ended phrase, unprofessional behavior, and you kind of have to judge that for yourself. That takes a bit of judgment and maturity to even know what that means. But I think it's like the Supreme Court's definition of obscenity. You know it when you see it.
Right.
hopefully you know it when you see it. So what do you think about that? I mean, is it should we go in and scrub? If I'm going in for a management job at a pretty traditional or conservative company, and yet my accounts have pictures of me with my friends on a weekend camping trip, kind of partying. Not necessarily drinking heavy, but being like crazy doofus swinging off of a rope swing or something. That's kind of, is that something that maybe I shouldn't do? I shouldn't have on there. These are sort of edge cases. What do you think? What is the line?
Well, that particular example, I don't see any problem with showing a picture of camping and hiking, that type of thing. I guess if it were me, I would say, can you turn your account over to your mom or your aunt and be embarrassed by it?
Right.
That's the type of thing I would say that doesn't belong there. But to say, oh, I'm a member of this camping group or this whatever, that's part of social life, and
right.
That shouldn't be penalizing you.
Yeah, but you also have to be careful about things like guilt by association. You might not be the one participating in the
that's
craziness, but maybe there's somebody that has a joint lit up behind you, and that's your friends, but it's not something you would do. It's just you're hanging out with those people, and you're not vetting your pictures for that kind of stuff until you go back and look at it and go, oh, I didn't notice that was going on from this perspective. So.
And especially if you're trying to get a job, say in law enforcement, or in certain other professions that are highly regulated, where the people you associate with are of concern to your employer. I mean, that's a part of it. So one of the things they advise is remove anything where you've bad-mouthed previous employers. We've all had, many of us, I won't say many of us have had experiences where we've left a job badly and we were not happy with our previous employer. And, again, when I was a kid, I would go out with my friends, we'd go to a bar, we'd have a beer, and I would complain about how stupid my old boss was and blah, 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 I hated that place anyway. Now we can go on Facebook and write it there and, oh man, I feel good. I've really, emptied that out, and I walk away, and then 3 years later, it's still there waiting for someone to come and see it. Is this something you think is important to remove these sorts of bashing previous employers? Should we
Definitely.
ever do it? Yeah.
I guess it's the old thing. If you can't say something good, don't say it at all. When it comes to that type of a job. And not only just the employer, but coworkers, complaining a lot about a coworker. That shows that you're a pretty combative person and not necessarily easy to get along with if a lot of what you're doing is tearing down other people.
Yes.
Or even just complaining about your job and how much work it is. And if you can't balance what you've been saying with good things, if all you do is complain about your job on your social media account, then you might want to go back and review that, because that's going to reflect negatively on you.
Very much.
And do you only use social media to vent and not to talk about positive things?
Right.
My blog from 2001 through about 2007 was me complaining about the scandal in the church. I mean, that's pretty much most of my blog from then. I'll be quite honest. I mean, that's because there was a lot to complain about, and I think it has harmed me in job searches. I'll be quite honest here. When I've gone up for jobs in the church, people have gone back and looked at that. In fact, I'll tell you a story. When I started my job at the Archdiocese of Boston in 2007, somebody sent an email to the Vicar General of the Archdiocese saying, this guy is starting his job tomorrow, and he's bad news, and we shouldn't hire him.
Ooh.
Because he bashes the church. Because of my blog. Yeah. Thankfully, he did not pay attention. In fact, he was curious about who is this guy. And I proved myself, but it was a negative. And then here's another case though, where I used what I knew about someone from social media. Again, this is back in 2007, 2008, 9, somewhere in there. I used to hire a lot of temps in my job for the Archdiocese, and we had a temp come in, and he was kind of quiet. And then one of the other temps came up to me and said, you really ought to look at his MySpace page. Again, this is a while ago. So we did. He was a member of a satanic band, like they did like satanic death metal, like where their lyrics were quite awful. And so I called the temp agency and said, do you guys look at their social media before you hire them for, say, the church? And so I asked them to find him a different position and send us someone else. But, so it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
That's a case where I'm like, I just felt like that guy wasn't a good fit. But I still think about it, obviously. Should I have judged him on that? His work was fine. Did I judge him too harshly or too quickly? Did I lose an opportunity to evangelize someone? That's my worry as I look back, and I feel kind of bad about it. So it's something to think about.
I had a situation where I had a prospective employee that had a prison record, and the question came up, should we hire him? What should we be looking at, etc. And I thought about it, and I said, everybody deserves a second chance, and even talked to him a little bit about it before he came on board. And he said, I've learned my lessons. I'll be the hardest worker you've got. I've already know what what's right and wrong. He said, I'll show you. And he did. And he was a good employee. And yet, if I had based upon the fact that he had done a burglary when he was in, 18, 19 years old and had been in prison for 2 or 3 years, I don't remember how long it was, but I would have lost a good employee.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. I mean, sometimes I think it's hiring managers, they get so many resumes, they're looking for easy ways to get rid of some. And I think that's one of the things that happens. And it's tough. So what do you think about, is it bad or is it damaging if you don't have a social media presence, or it's inactive, or you don't seem active, your Facebook account hasn't been posted to in years or whatever? Do you think it's bad if you don't have a social media footprint? What do you think?
This is something I worry about because, I had a Facebook account for a long time and I've stopped using it entirely. It's been about 3, maybe 4 years since I've really even engaged with it myself. My wife uses it now for Girl Scout things. So she's connected with all of the Girl Scout moms from her troop because she doesn't want her own Facebook account. So she just uses mine to do that. And that's really the limit of what that account does at this point. So I wonder if it would be a negative. The same way if you have a 0 credit score, which is another situation that I'm in, it limits a lot of opportunities to get loans, to get a mortgage. You have to do a lot of groundwork to prove yourself. So I wonder if employers start checking these things and they can't find your presence online, is that a negative? Are they going to assume that you have a bunch of private accounts? Are they going to assume that you're just doing so many bad things that you don't have a social media presence that's visible to them by your name, or that you're using an alias? What's that going to mean?
Right. Or even they assume that you are not adept at technology, especially in a job that requires technology in that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, so do you set up a perfunctory social media presence where you post like anodyne, banal stuff on a regular basis? I mean, and it feels very cynical and false to do that, but it's a good question. I don't know if there's an answer to that, whether not having a presence. I think there's still enough people who have, say, gotten out of Twitter and gotten out of Facebook that it wouldn't necessarily be a negative, but there might come a day where it is, where you...
I guess I see that for right now, I see so many people that just aren't interested in Facebook, or they're just not interested in these things. So I would think that, based upon that, the employer saying, well, that person's not on Facebook, I don't think that's a poor reading if that's what they're judging it on.
Right.
The other thing, though, is aliases could be a real problem. If they kind of found out that you were using an alias, that might be an issue.
Right. My problem is with my name, there's only 3 of us. There's me, my dad, and my nephew. And I feel bad for my nephew when he has to go out looking for a job, because they're going to Google that name and they're going to find me and all my stuff. And they're going to go, what is going on with you? Oh, no, that's my uncle. I've given him permission to blame it all on me. So,
but I could see.
I was just going to say, he's not going to have to go for a job interview anytime soon, though. He's going into the Army as a ROTC. So good luck for him. You going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, for somebody who's in tech, not to have a LinkedIn account probably is a detriment. Even though I don't use it, I've dropped my LinkedIn account because I don't have a need for that type of job searching or job, helping to find someone for a job. But I would think LinkedIn, as poor as it is probably still a good thing to be a part of.
I think also using these social media platforms the way they're intended, LinkedIn should be just professional stuff. Don't post your opinions about politics or religion or any of that stuff on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn account which, because I've had it for years, and I'm connected to some people that way still. And it's funny because I'm technically CEO of SQPN, as small of a title as that is, it still says CEO. So I get all kinds of interesting connection requests and offers, to increase my manufacturing capacity and marketing verve and all this other baloney. I'm like, yeah, you haven't done any research on SQPN yet, have you?
Right. I know you don't know who you're talking to.
Exactly. It's very easy to just ignore those. All right, that's a good discussion too. Two great discussions tonight, so that was so good so far. Let me bring it down then. No, just kidding. A couple of fun headlines I wanted to mention, or at least one fun one and one more interesting one for me anyway. Samsung had a promotion recently where they had a satellite, quote unquote, a selfie satellite. It was really just a balloon that went high up in the atmosphere to where you could see black sky in the curve of the earth. So it looks kind of like a satellite. Anyway, it was a Samsung Europe, and it was a PR stunt. They sent a selfie of the actress Cara Delevingne. She's been in a couple of things, Carnival Row on Amazon, and what was that other one? That French, Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets or something like that. Anyway, she was the space selfie. Anyway, it fell out of the sky. It deorbited a little earlier than they expected in a place that they weren't quite expecting, and crashed into this horse farm in Michigan. That's where it was. And so the people whose farm it was, like, it's lucky we weren't in this pasture with the horses. The PR company that sent it up, they came by and collected it because they had the information, the name of them on the side of it, and these people had put it on social media, and then it was on the news, and they came and picked it up. So it was the first ever space selfie, which I'm not sure what that means. It was a camera hanging on the outside of this, let's call it a satellite, with a picture on it. It didn't take the picture in space. I'm not sure what the point of this is, but, I just thought it was a funny story.
All I could think of was Donnie Darko.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good comparison. I'm just thinking the space junk is, it's like the blue blocks of ice that of our modern day.
Yes.
Just the stuff that we're going to be experiencing in the next few years as this stuff kind of slows down and falls out of space is very interesting. So.
Beware plummeting Samsungs.
We need a bunch of big umbrellas.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, just wait until the drones are delivering packages to everybody's house and those start falling out of the sky.
Oh my gosh.
So another headline we got is just as a sort of I don't know if everyone's interested in this, but iOS 13.2, which I think is now the 5th iOS 13 update in a month, but that it is out. It has the new Deep Fusion camera technology, the new super awesome, wicked cool photo thingy that it does, which nobody's got. Like, all of the tech guys know what it is, but it's like the average user's like, I don't know what it is, but it's Deep Fusion. It's supposed to make my photos look good. So it works. Apparently, you'll only see it in low to mid light situations. So basically, indoors or outdoors on cloudy days, it is when it works best. It doesn't work in bright light, and it only works in the 1x or I think it's the 1x mode, or it's like 1x or 2x, but it doesn't work in the wide angle mode. But that's what it is. So it's
going to get rid of that graininess, like those photos you take every once in a while that are at that dim to mid light range, and they have that graininess to them, and you're like, this is not a photo that my iPhone takes normally. This is going to solve that problem theoretically.
Yes. That's what I'm looking forward to. I mean, honestly, I haven't with birthdays. I really love that low light camera. They taking a picture of the person blowing out the candles. The lights are off, the candles are lit. And it's like all you can see is candles. But this, the night mode really is much better for that. There's some Siri updates. I don't know. There's some other stuff in it that is relatively minor related. So just I thought I'd mention that.
And I had heard too that it broke the HomePods for music.
Yes.
That evidently there is a problem with that people are upset about.
Yes. So. Yeah, can't have an update without breaking something. That's
on that Fusion thing. Is that all phones that can run that iOS, or is it only like the higher cameras or the higher models of the phone.
I think Deep Fusion is just the iPhone 11s,
Okay.
and it might be last year's phones too. But it has to be like the higher end cameras and processors.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. It's definitely this year's phones, but I don't know if it's last year's phones. But certainly not anything older than that. Not the iPhone 10 or anything previous to that. They're just not up to the snuff with the CPUs on that. So yeah, it's too bad. Time to upgrade. Next year's phones will be even better. So says the rumors.
Of course.
All right.
There you go.
So here's I want to give you my quick tale of woe. I promised earlier. I have had an Airport Extreme base station as my networking in my home for 4 years or something like that, maybe a little longer. Apple no longer makes Wi-Fi routers, and so I was needing to upgrade because the base station was starting to not reach as far. I was getting dropouts in my Wi-Fi. It was a bad scene. And especially if my wife's in the other room trying to get online and she starts yelling, "Why can't I get on the network?" That's time to fix things. So,
Dad, go reset the router. Dad, go reset the router.
yes. So, and never mind, trying to do podcasts with it. So, I got an Eero. I've been looking at mesh systems for a while. I like the Eero. It's a little more locked down. I looked at the Synology. I looked at some other ones, but I decided to pull the trigger on the Eero just because I kind of like some of the features of it. For one thing, it comes with a lot of software in the subscription. They have a subscription model, and it comes with a lot of software that I'm already paying for. So I'm actually gonna. It doesn't cost all that much once I figure out that I don't have to pay for these other subscriptions anymore. So that was pretty good. Anyway. The first one I ordered from Amazon. The first one I got was dead when it got here, so that was fun. So,
oh yay!
Their customer service was pretty good though, and they got a new one out to me overnight, and I got it the very next day, which was good. And plugged it in, and it worked. Yay! Set up my Wi-Fi, and my intention was to set it up with the same. It's called SSID, the same name as the old one, so that everything just saw it and recognized it. It would be the same, and everything would be happy. Well, I didn't. Yeah, no, that doesn't work that way. And so I had to switch all the computers and all the phones. Now the phones was fun because once I set up on my iPhone, it showed a QR code, and all I have to do is go to that point a camera from other phones or iPads at that QR code, and it transfers all the information necessary. So just tap
Cool.
join, tap join. So it was awesome. And then once it's on, say, my wife's iPhone. It then, through iCloud, propagates to her MacBook Pro or MacBook Air and, the other Apple hardware. So that was great. But then I had to figure out why my Philips Hue bulbs weren't responding. And, oh, yes, I have to change the Wi-Fi on the bridge. In fact, the bridge doesn't connect via Wi-Fi. It connects via Ethernet. So why isn't it working? And why aren't my Synology network attached storage working? Oh, because I have to reboot the switch. Oh, why isn't the doorbell working? Oh, because it's a Ring doorbell. It connects via Wi-Fi, as do the security cameras. Oh, why isn't my Echoes responding? Oh, because they also need Wi-Fi. And the printers, and the Nest thermostat, and the Nest Protect smoke detectors, which, by the way, I'm still trying to switch over the last one of them. That was the worst one because I had to. You're supposed to be able to just go in and say, just change this here, and tap this and do this, and it's fine. It's the way it's supposed to work. Oh, just enter the new Wi-Fi network. Nope. Had to remove them all from the account, take them all down, and then set them up one by one again.
Oh gosh.
And one of them and I had to keep taking the batteries out, putting them back in, starting from scratch. Errors. And there's one I still haven't got where it still works as just a dumb smoke detector. If it detects smoke, it'll go off. I mean, so there's that, but it doesn't have all the features you spent the extra money to get. All the networking features. So I still got to work that out. And now I'm sitting there going, what else have I not even thought of that is still needs to be updated? It's just so
time to start taking a tech inventory.
No kidding.
Yes.
Well, and that's if I have a bit of advice is before you upgrade your router, go into it and look at the list. It usually has a list of things that are attached, and just figure out all the things in your house that are using your Wi-Fi. And and connecting via Ethernet, just in case. And then be prepared to reset them all when the time comes. Just be ready. And all that Internet of Things stuff will all have to be updated along with it. So just keep that in mind. And one of the downsides of the smart home Internet of Things lifestyle. So that's my tale of woe.
Yeah, I discovered a long time ago you can't just keep the same SSID because it does something weird with the encryption, and you've just got to. I always just add a number at the end or add something at the end of it so that it'll look the same, but it'll have to force it to refresh. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and from the because from the computer standpoint, that name's a dummy name. It doesn't care about that name at all. It cares about the MAC address and the particular IP addresses that it's picking up. So it looks at that and it goes, hold on, something's not right here, and which is good. That's a security feature. So this is a feature, not a bug. That it does not want to connect to this new thing that is named the same way as the old thing.
Like all those so cleverly named FBI surveillance van Wi-Fi networks.
Exactly.
You just have to add a 1 at the end.
Yeah. Oh, you sneaky guy! It's a funny joke. I never saw that before. All right, let's move on to our picks of the week, and then I did have a little listener feedback at the end. But before we get to that, let's do our picks of the week. Thomas, what's your pick this week?
Okay, so my pick this week is not actually a tech item other than just a really interesting story. I kind of touched on it the last time I was on. I think I'm a listener of another podcast that's called Talk Python to Me. It's a great podcast. Really surprised me by having this guest on, and it was the guest was Cornelius Van Lith, who is a professor of Islamic Studies and Digital Humanities, or a scholar of Islamic Studies and Digital Humanities. But he's also a friar of the Order of Preachers. So it was really neat to hear him talking about both of those sides of things on this very, very highly tech podcast. And his studies are fantastic. He's using Python to analyze ancient Islamic scripts by doing visual studies of them. So they take pictures and then they run it through some of the visual recognition software that you can make in Python. And they're the things that they've been able to discover and limit, certain philosophical texts to certain dates based on the similarities of the seals that are on the front, and doing that strictly through the computer watching it. It's really neat. It was a really interesting podcast. If you're interested in the podcast itself, it was episode 230, I believe. I'll make sure I get the notes to Dom for that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to link his website specifically, and you can go through and look at the things that he's listed for Islamic studies and for the digital humanities. The space that he's working in is amazing because it's taking all of the historical work of having to pour through these documents and look at every single little thing, just from the way it's written, the type of ink that was used, the way that the document itself is formatted. And he's feeding that information to the computer and teaching the computers how to look at these things and give a better guess to the scholars who are studying it.
That's interesting.
That sounds really cool. Yeah.
I like this idea of matching up the humanities with technology, which is not always the first thought. Is technology is its engineering or science department or that sort of stuff. But really, the humanities can use this technology, which is great. It's great. It's awesome. I really like this.
Right. And the reason that it's really striking home there is because Python is such an easy programming language to learn that there are a lot of scholars that are learning just the basics that you need to start down that path. And it gets them really far in their studies and becomes an incredible tool for them to work with.
Awesome. Cool.
Very
Great.
cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Pat, what's your pick this week?
Well, I've got a Amazon device and I have an Apple device. So I decided I needed to have a Google device. So I ended up getting, actually with some points I had at Dell, I got one free, a Google Mini Home speaker. And I've enjoyed it. It's kind of nice to put it in the living room and play with it and let it be the speaker for my Bluetooth, or, let it play stuff off of YouTube or whatever. So now I can say I'm fluent in three digital assistants.
There you go.
Does it have anything particular to Google Home that it does that the others don't do, or that it does better than the others?
Well, the other ones, the Google Home device is a lot larger. It's got a
Right.
better speaker on it, etc. But this one would work with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, which the Google Home only worked with just one. So this actually could be a Bluetooth speaker easily, as well as it talks via Wi-Fi as well.
And
So that was the only thing I had found out about it.
And is there anything particular to the Google Home kind of products that is better than, say, the Amazon Echoes?
I didn't do a study on that.
Yeah.
There are people that have, that said, one is better than this or this is better than that. I really didn't go through this. I just picked it up last week. So I just kind of wanted to have an example of each one just so I could play with them.
Yeah. Well,
and it's real easy as far as picking it up and setting it up. It was very simple to set up. And I can just pick it up and move it to another room if I want to take it upstairs and work somewhere else and still have it.
Cool. Maybe the guys over at the Google Home department will talk to the guys at the Google Nest department about making things easy.
And one of the things I thought was very interesting is I asked it to play an episode of SQPN's Let's Talk, and it did.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, so, you could pretty much do that if with any of the devices. If you say, play, I don't know, Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World podcast, say, or play Secrets of Technology podcast. If you use the word podcast, you're almost always going to get it. So, yeah, with any of them.
Right.
So,
and it picked up the latest one. I didn't try getting an older one, but it picked up the latest one, which is what I wanted. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah. It'll always play the most recent one. Good. All right. So my pick of the week this week is a fun little thing. It's the Elago W4. I don't know what any of that means. But the Elago is the company, W4. Apple Watch stand that looks like an original Bondi Blue iMac. And
nice.
The way that works is that you have your Apple Watch charger cord, and you kind of fit it through there, and it fits inside the blue part. And then there's this little gap between the in the back there with the frame of the front of the little iMac there. And when you slide your Apple Watch in, it charges, and then it looks like it's the screen of the iMac. So it's very
really
cute. It's inexpensive. It's a nice stocking stuffer if you know someone who's got an Apple Watch get for Christmas, and it's like $12, so it's not much. They also do one of the original Macintosh, so the 1984 Mac, so you can get that if you're old school. So a lot of fun. It's a neat little thing. And it's not much. It's not exciting. Oh, it looks like they also have. I'm just looking here. They have one that looks like an original iPod too. So, yeah, one for.
They don't have an Apple II. That's what I would need. Apple II Plus.
Or an Apple II GS. Yeah. Oh, I miss my Apple II GS. That was.
And then the question is, would it actually convert the screen into that hideous gray gradient color that they had?
well, the other thing is the Apple Watch is probably more computing power than any of those early.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty funny. I wonder if I could put an emulator on my Apple Watch.
I did see where it's got to be done.
I did see where you could go and take a GIF and put that as your screen face on an Apple. I found an article that talked about doing that.
Oh, maybe
so you could do that.
I could get John Travolta kind of looking confused on my Apple Watch. That would be fun.
Yes.
All right, so I did say we had a little feedback. I wanted to read that from Les Hammer on our episode 40. Where we talked about getting to the moon by 2024 and Mars by 2035. He says, as far as money spent on space exploration goes, dollar bills are not sent into orbit. The dollars are paid to people on Earth, employees to make and transport all of the material for the spacecraft, even down to the custodian that sweeps the floor. So that's a very good point. Money that's spent on that, the space exploration gets spent here on Earth. So that's a good point. All right, so let's. I do want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including Teresa S., Lori A., Father Paul, Sydney I., and John W. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And so that's it from us. What did you think of our discussion about, the value of rumors, about cleaning up your social media while you're looking for a job, all that sort of thing? Let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And you can also find all those links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com/technology. If you have not done so, if you're only ever listening to the show on your Echo device or your Google Home Mini, be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, your favorite podcast app, or at our YouTube channel, where you should hit the bell to get notifications. Until next time, Pat Scott, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
It's been fun as always.
And Thomas Inherho, thank you as well.
It was a pleasure.
Once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.